What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some progressive trance, and we're back with a record I've had since the earliest days. I got my turntables in 1998. I mentioned I was looking for acid techno and acid trance a lot, from the very beginning, but I didn't find those kind of records as much. And this is an era when, at least when I started buying records, I was going to physical record shops only. Within a few years, I started using, sites like bangingtunes.com, satellite records, and eventually found my way to Discogs, and the rest, as they say, is history. But yeah, the point is, in the first couple years, a lot of the records I got were trance, some of it more on the energetic side, but a lot of it was like technically melodic and progressive trance. Now again, I eventually found my way to certain labels and certain shops that carried either acid trance or acid techno a bit more regularly. Nevertheless, the point is, I do have a lot of progressive and melodic trance from like 97 to like 2001. So one of the tunes from that era, and then this is actually a remix vinyl, meaning there was a sort of one-off project called Veracocha. It's two people, one of whom is the hugely famous trance artist, the Dutch DJ and producer Ferry. Corsten, goes under many names, part of many groups like Gordiella and so on. And then Vincent de Moor, who I know less about, but it's a name that I was aware of when I heard of this collaboration. So they made a track called Carte Blanche, and I don't have the original, but at one record shop I went to, thumbing through the, trance stacks, I ended up finding this remix vinyl of Carte Blanche. And of the remixes on the vinyl, I think the Hitch Hiker Dumondt remix is the best one. So a lot of my old school trance mixtapes, and by that I genuinely mean cassette mixtapes that I would make on my, originally a 4-track recorder, and then I got a fancier one that could record both cassettes and CDs, so I recorded originally you couldn't do tracks. It was like a mix CD, it was just like one long track, and then eventually I got this other one where you could if you had the remote in hand, you could split the track numbers while you were recording the mix. And eventually, I would begin using Audacity and recording my mixes straight onto my computer, making things much easier. But the point is, if you heard any of the cassette mixtapes of trance that I made around the turn of the millennium, this track would have been on at least a few of them. So let's hear it. This is Veracocha. The track is Carte Blanche, though this is the Hitch Hiker Dumondt remix. And this remix vinyl came out in '99. I don't know about the original. I suppose I can check, because I looked on Discogs earlier to confirm the year of the regular, or the remix vinyl that I have, which again is '99, so let's see. Okay, so yeah, a few years later I guess they put out another track, but ultimately, and then in 2019 they put out a track. But yeah, this was the main Veracocha release, in terms of it. There's 50 different versions, and yes, the original also came out in 1999, so there you go. But here we are. This is the track Carte Blanche by Veracocha, the Hitch Hiker Dumondt remix from 1999 on Deal Records.
Every time we are asking a bit of variation, in fact we act as if we were first when we always say yes. And which allows us also to be true in the way we look at others. It's only when I have this deep poverty, this deep humility, of choosing to depend on God, all that I am and all that I live, that I can look in truth at my brother, and that I can see in him the same way. A small creature who totally depends on God, and depends on God before depending on me. If I don't always look at others in the light of God, their creator and their source, we know very well that there's always a constant effort to try to process as if we had a right on others. While adoration allows us to look in truth and therefore to love in truth others.
Hold on. I think that was a skip. Definitely got a couple of pops there of note. does happen though, you know? Records you've had for like 25 or whatever years. That vocal call and response. And then that little rattling rhythm. How the melody bubbles up and then it fully extends. Come back to that main melody, but I like this middle section. There's like this little... acid quality to it. I don't know if it's 303, but getting that little rattle sound. A lot of texture. Touches like that. It could just be the kick, the bass line, but those other little details. Number one, they make a track more distinct or unique, and then secondarily, they add texture. But yeah, as I said, if you were to have taken a ride in my car back in the day, those are the kinds of tunes that constituted a lot of the mixtapes I was making. Again, I did get like a handful of acid records, a handful of hardcore records, and so on, but the first like full sets I was able to spin were largely like progressive and melodic trance, though compared to a couple other friends of mine who were also starting to buy records and had gotten turntables, they were getting progressive trance records that were a bit more like kind of, hands up in the air. I was trying to get like melodic and progressive trance records, but ones with a bit more drive, a bit more energy, and eventually, I started getting more like hard trance records, acid trance records, and started spinning house trance that was different from what some of my other friends were playing, even though the earliest records I bought are similar to what some of my other friends were playing. So bottom line, in the early days I was trying to buy different genres, but again, limited budget then and now, but certainly when I was a teenager in my early 20s. So ultimately, I was trying to get records of some different genres, but ultimately, was limited in the scope of what I could do. Although over time and with the use of Discogs, as I mentioned, I have been able to catch up on some things I missed and also keep abreast of new releases for different labels, which is funny because, again, I started my first Discogs account '04, which again, at the time, it felt like, oh, this is a new era. The 90s are a few years in the rearview mirror, and some of the labels that used to put out records are either going entirely digital or they're just stopping. Parties aren't happening in the same way that they used to. Some of the genres, like trance and everything, sounds different. It's like, man, it's a new era. That was 20 years ago. So it's weird to think that I was following some of these labels when they were putting out new stuff in '06, '07, '08. Like I mentioned before, I had taken a couple years away from mixing at least regularly, from '04 to maybe '07. And '08 or '09, when I really started to get back into it, I remember starting to get in touch with Stay Up Forever again, and eventually talking to Aaron and Chris and so on, and it was that felt like, man, I've come back after a little while away, but it's that was 15 years ago. Where does time go? It's insane. But ultimately, yeah, really cool to be able to use Discogs and other sites to find occasionally records that back in the day was oh, I remember this track. It was in so-and-so's mixtape, or I heard it at that party, but I never knew what it was called or whatever. So, again, it has been very cool. But as I said, this one is one that's been in my collection forever. So, as I said, shout out to Ferry, Corsten, and Vincent Moor. And shout out to Hitch Hiker and Dumondt, which Hitch Hiker, I feel like I've seen that name as a remix artist somewhere else, but neither of those people I know much about, so, but they did a good remix here, so let me know what you think of this one. I will see you next time. Peace.